Hailing frequencies open and welcome aboard Treks and Tangents. I'm your co-host Brian.
And I'm your co-host Jaci. I'm the Star Trek newbie who treks off on tangents.
And I'm your Star Trek expert who is here to get the tangents back on track. Each episode we watch and talk about a different Star Trek episode. And this week we watched
Star Trek, the original series, Season 1, Episode 27, The Alternative Factor.
Thank you all for tuning in once again. Thank you everyone who's been liking, subscribing. Don't forget to comment on the episode at the end or whenever you drop off. Leave your thoughts to this week's episode. Leave a comment to anything that you questioned about this questionable episode.
Yes, please. Someone help me out.
But before we jump too far into it this week, let's jump back to revisit last week's Turbolift tease. That was where at the end of last week's episode, I gave Jaci the title of this week's episode, and Jaci gave her elevator pitch or guess to what this week's plot was. So computer, what was Jaci's guess last week?
Jaci's Turbolift tease last week was, one of the crew members has been harmed very gravely, but Dr. McCoy has been able to learn a new procedure that is going to be able to mend this crew member. And although it's not what everyone would do, he does decide that he is going to use this specific twist on this procedure and is going to find out that it works great and he just might add it to his repertoire.
Whoa.
So Jaci, how accurate do you think your guess was?
Way off the mark. Although I did include McCoy.
You got at least the character that was in the episode.
Yes.
It's kind of unfair. This is one of those episodes where the title makes no sense. The episode itself makes no sense. It's kind of bad faith to ask you to accurately guess the plot of an episode that is just such a bad episod.
Yeah, I tried and I failed miserably, but also this episode, it was a hard watch for me.
Yeah, it's a hard watch for anyone. So for initial...
Oh, I'm not alone.
So initial impressions, try to include what you think the plot of the episode is. Briefly.
Well, I thought we were going to figure out what was going to happen. Like what exactly made the atmosphere blink and wink. And then we were going to help this one person who was dirty and scraggly and never got a shower and help him get back to where he's supposed to go. And that never happened.
This episode is a good predictor of, I think, what the Marvel Cinematic Universe turns into here in 2026 with parallel or alternative universes that never really come together, never really pull off anything satisfying. Jaci fully admitted before we started recording that she did not understand what happened in the episode, and it's very difficult to understand. To sum it up for everyone else who may not have figured out what was going on, the character Lazarus.
Yes.
There were two.
I figured that out at the end.
One was crazy, one was not crazy.
Yes.
And we predominantly saw more of the crazy one than the non-crazy one.
And the crazy one wants to kill the non-crazy one.
So the non-crazy one exists in a universe that is, they describe it as antimatter. It's not 100% antimatter. We'll get into it later. But think of it as another universe that is somewhat parallel to our universe.
Okay.
Okay?
I'm trying.
That Lazarus and his people found a way to use that little weird spaceship that he has.
I called it the bubble ship.
The bubble ship, the Pope Mobile. They use that spaceship to pop over to this universe.
Oh, like a little ride?
Yeah, or like a transporter. They use that ship to transport themselves to the other planet. Not the ship, because the ship stays there, but it doesn't because it was...
Oh, the ship is like the teleporter pad thing.
It's a good way to describe it.
Oh.
Okay. Upon learning that there was another universe in which he existed, this universe's Lazarus goes insane and wants to kill the other Lazarus.
Oh, because he couldn't handle it.
Correct.
Okay.
So the problem with that, however, is though, if they were to ever meet in either of the universes, because they are opposites, it would create a catastrophic explosion in the same way that matter and antimatter, when combined, creates. Basically, they would blow up the universe.
Got it.
So every time we saw the little shifting, it was either the other one trying to come through, the other one would take over. It all falls apart at this point. But that's ultimately what the plot of this episode is two parallel universes, two separate individuals, and the danger that it poses.
Okay, one question. Why did the sane Lazarus, why was his bubble ship broken? Like, its like front bumper was off.
Because he was trying to find a way to stop the connection between the two universes. The sane Lazarus is the one who recognized, I don't want both universes to blow up, so I'm trying to close this door.
Okay.
Because ultimately, he can't succeed. All he can do is, now you introduce,
surrender himself
by capturing or trapping the other Lazarus in this corridor, they call it, between both universes.
Because then he can't come to the broken bubble ship because it's broken.
Correct. And that's why they blow up the ship with the phasers at the very end.
Okay.
So that it stops existing and it closes the door, and both of them are trapped in between where they can't blow up the universe. It makes no sense. There are a lot of plot holes that are a problem with
And
this.
supposedly they're going to be fighting each other for the rest of eternity.
Correct, because, well, there's other problems with that too, but and in any case.
Oh my gosh. That was a lot for a simple thing they could have told us.
Yeah, it was. This is a bad episode.
And the title means nothing.
The alternative factor, I couldn't tell you why they called it that. I don't understand it. Even looking into earlier versions of the script, because a lot of the times an episode name will come from the early development of the script, or it'll have a different name, and as the script evolves, it changes the name to match or not. I don't know why they called it this. So,
well, I have noticed, as a green newbie to this Star Trek, the titles don't always match what we're going to see anyways.
No, they're not always a perfect fit. There's no gotcha moment in every episode.
Sometimes, though, more often than not, they do kind of like give a peek. But this one was like way off in a different land.
Yeah. So it's not a great episode to try to pull a lot of Star Trek lore or to tie it all in. This is definitely one of those episodes where it just kind of falls off to the side, and it's probably a good thing that it does. I'm showing Jaci the memory alpha listing, which is the pacing. You can kind of see like there's really nothing until it gets to the final act, and even then,
well, then that's what I was going to tell you. I need help with all those words.
But even then, there's really no depth to the episode.
Like it's a pages on pages on pages.
Yeah, a lot of this episode is special effects, camera work, a lot of dramatic pauses that really act as huge fillers.
Well, I noticed that it was a different director, and although I didn't enjoy the episode as a whole, I enjoyed his vision on like what he was trying to do.
Sure.
Like, I give him props for that, but he had just a poor storyline to work with.
And I think that there could be a lot of ways that you can tune up this episode that could make it a little bit better. We'll talk about some of there's one major sticking point that I'll talk about later, but I'll bring it up now, that a lot of people use to criticize this episode is, if our universe is matter and the other universe is antimatter, and when those two combine, they create an explosion. That's what they're trying to avoid.
Yes.
By the crazy Lazarus meeting the sane Lazarus. Then in theory, anytime the sane Lazarus, antimatter Lazarus, comes into our universe, matter, it would cause the explosion. When Kirk goes into sane Lazarus's universe at the end, and they formulate the final plan, he's a being of matter and he's going into the antimatter universe, it would cause the explosion. So there's a lot of criticism in that point. I've kind of wrapped my head around it with a slightly different reason or explanation for it, but we'll get to it then. But
Okay.
I think we've gone on long enough about our thoughts. I think we both can agree our initial impressions. Neither one of us particularly care for this episode.
No,
It's
I'm
gonna
sorry.
gonna be a big spoiler for how we feel at the end. And
I don't have to promote or demote anyone.
yeah, it's gonna be a quick ranking for this one, I think. But why don't we get into it, Jaci? Why don't you walk us through the episode?
Well, I think while the episode was not like interestingly fun and exciting, we did get to meet more characters. So I thought that was a plus. But anyways, we're starting with the normal bridge shot, and we have our yeoman giving a clipboard to Kirk to sign off, and Spock is looking at this planet that they're orbiting around, and because they're going to be mapping it, I'm presuming, because later on Kirk tells the cartography unit to start doing their job. And so Spock reports his readings that it is an atmosphere that's arid and no life is shown, no surprises. And then in the back of my head, I was like, you didn't just say that because you jinxed yourself. And
he specifically says it's an oxygen hydrogen rich atmosphere. Let's point this out for a second. Oxygen and hydrogen are extremely flammable.
yes,
Which is why we don't see that combination in the universe, because any little spark would cause it to explode. But yes, to your point, he does call it lifeless. What did you see down on the planet, Jaci?
a black hole and looking like Mars.
But what did you also see on the planet? Plants.
Oh yeah, when we went to the planet, it did not look exactly like how Spock explained it,
Yeah.
described it. So that was also confusing.
Yeah, he's calling it a lifeless planet. He's describing it like Mars, the moon, a barren rock in the middle of space, but there's plants.
Yeah, when they went down, there was plants, there were dry plant, like it was like we were in the arena again.
Right. Same film stage, same park. Again, just kind of a weird throw off to when you could easily just say that there's no intelligent life, there's only plant life. You could
Yeah.
a one-off moment to better describe it to be more accurate. So we're not gonna crap on this episode the whole time, but we kind of are. We're really trying not to.
No, I mean there are likable points.
No, there's not.
I try to look at the good side. So Kirk orders that we do 4 more orbits around the planet. Then he tells the cartographic sessions to be taken. So cartography is map making. So we're going to make a map of the planet and then to Starbase 200.
Right, because he's fully written off this mission. He thinks they're done. He thinks this is just a routine mission and they're going to take off. And even the background music for this opening, when they first pan in on the bridge, is you hear the oboe music. It's kind of leaning into that more whimsical musical score. Setting it up for this is nothing's wrong.
Oh yeah, and the score alone is great. Also, because I mean, we got some good bassoons going, and I mean, and the bass clarinet. Sorry, I just love it. But anyways, so just as Kirk orders for all this to happen, Spock yells "Captain," and then like a crazy crash happens, all different colors, and then twirly boxes. It's crazy on the screen.
It's probably the biggest second to only to the first time that they went to warp, where we get the overlay of the stars shooting past. This is probably one of the biggest moments of quote unquote chaos in the show, where they have this overlay of the stars and the nebula over the bridge crew rocking back and forth as the Enterprise shakes. Definitely set it up for this false sense. Definitely a quote unquote shock moment for the episode.
And then Spock calls it incredible.
Yeah, it's kind of funny where I've got it paused up here where we've still got the overlay of the nebula, and we've got Kirk, and he's just kind of staring at Spock as we wait for the nebula to fade away. And it's not till the nebula fades away that Kirk goes, Spock, and Spock goes, incredible. And it's just
because
like,
he's just watching it through his microscope thing.
yeah, it's like Kirk is waiting for the cue from the director to give his line. There's a couple moments that are awkward like that throughout the episode where they yell action and then they kind of let it stretch too long before they give their line. So weird.
Yeah, if you have it paused and his hand is resting just above any of the buttons he has to push on this chair.
Yeah, so weird editing choice in the episode.
So Kirk runs to Spock. I mean, I think he wants to check on his friend, but also to, like, what are you talking about? That there was nothing wrong. And then he wants more details on what's happening, like what just happened. And then Spock doesn't know what's wrong because his instruments are perfect. And all of his readings said there was nothing wrong. But then he goes on to say that, like, the universe winked. And then Kirk is like, I need facts, not poetry. I don't know why Spock would be saying poetry at this moment, but he's trying to explain that the universe just kind of like stopped for 2 like blinks, and he doesn't know why yet.
Yeah, he's trying to give a concise explanation to something that occurred where the sensors don't adequately give him the information and facts to convey that to Kirk. What he's trying to explain is that literally every sensor reading went off the charts. He even refers to the fact that the planet itself achieved 0 gravity. Okay. Kirk says it's impossible. Yes. Point is, this is a major event. This isn't just a one little isolated incident in the vicinity of the planet. This has huge impacts. This is a universe-wide event, much like the burn in Discovery. This is huge. And we get a fun little moment where Spock then says that he detects a life form on the planet. It gives off all the readings of a human. And so, where did he come from if there was no life before?
Exactly. And then Uhura has to interrupt all of them and say that there's a general alert from Starfleet, and Kirk has to tell all of his crew to go to immediate alert status, and they have to be ready.
Right. It's the exact same wording that she used when they got the initial communication from Starfleet from Errand of Mercy with the Klingons saying that the negotiations had failed and that they were expecting an invasion. We get this quick little back and forth where they have a live communication with a Commodore from Starfleet. The Commodore is expecting them to prepare for invasion and that the Enterprise is going to be by themselves because they're pulling out all of Starfleet's resources from the area.
So they're bait.
Yeah, Kirk describes it as bait. Kind of weird that they wouldn't send more resources to help the Enterprise, but
also, what are they bait of? Like, that implies that something is hunting them.
Right. The Commodore is pulling out all of the resources of Starfleet because, again, this is where they get the report that this is an event that has occurred across the universe. It was felt everywhere. The Commodore goes so far as to describe it as something that was registered and read outside of the universe. I don't know how they're getting readings outside of the universe. They don't have, or outside the galaxy. They don't have colonies outside the galaxy. They don't have monitoring equipment outside the galaxy. So how do you get those readings to see how far it goes? Again, could have been cleaned up with the writers where they just said this was experienced throughout all of known space or all of Starfleet's sector. But in any case, Kirk decides, you know what's going to be cool since we're bait? Let's just take a bunch of people down to try to meet the strange new humanoid on the planet.
Kirk and Spock beam down with 4 security crewmen. Only 4.
Yes.
And they're all the beefy ones. I've learned that I've noticed that the security guys are becoming more beefy as time goes on.
Well, when it's important and they're doing security missions, then yeah, you need the beefcakes.
So, and just like we said earlier, this planet that's supposed to be dead and lifeless is green. Not all green, but it's sandy. It has grass. It has bushes. I mean, it's just like a little drought park or something.
Yeah, it has some life.
And so they all look around, and Spock, of course, has his tricorder in hand, and he's walking around trying to look for what is the thing that they're looking for. So, of course, Kirk and Spock are in front of the security men. Like, aren't they supposed to be behind them? But I don't know.
Yeah, it's again strange that he would. Why would Kirk and Spock, the captain and the first officer, beam down to the planet themselves? Why wouldn't he send Sulu? Why wouldn't he send, I don't know, McCoy to check on the
Because the
status?
humanoid.
Yeah, it just seems strange that they would go down themselves.
And so, whoa, what do they find? They find what I call the bubble ship. It's a white circular craft and then like a glass bubble dome for the pilot. And they're just like, what is this? And then suddenly a man appears and he's like, you have come. And then you need to stop them. He's just ranting and raving to them.
Right. He appears on some rock cliffs that are a little bit away from them, but up on cliffs.
And then as he's yelling, he like falls off the cliff, and Kirk and crew have to run to him, and he's all like dirty and musty, and Kirk and Spock just look at each other, and then they take him back up to the Enterprise. Who knows if he's harmful, but they take him up to the Enterprise so McCoy can fix him.
They spend less time on the planet discovering this man and the bubble ship than we see the opening before the opening credits with the whole blinking of the universe.
So now we're back on the Enterprise, and Kirk is walking in. He looks at Uhura, and she's like, I have nothing to report. And then a new science member approaches, and this is a woman that we learn that her name is Lieutenant Masters, but they don't tell us until later. But anyways, she approaches Kirk and tells him that we are down all of our dilithium crystals. Whatever we just went through, they're all drained.
We don't ever get a payoff for this. I don't believe there's any real explanation as to why this drained the dilithium crystals, why in a little bit Lazarus is trying to steal the dilithium crystals. It's just this weird plot point that never pays off.
And another question, are these the same crystals from a few episodes ago that we knew that we only had one stash and we should have ordered more?
Yeah, these are the exact same crystals. These are the batteries of the Enterprise.
And we still don't have backups.
I guess
frustrating.
Well, you can also argue maybe they did have backups, but this event drained all of them.
Okay.
Instead of like the few episodes ago that I'm thinking of where they were damaged while they were being drained or used by the Enterprise. They could have some in storage, but everything's been drained down to next to nothing.
Got it. So without these crystals, the orbit will begin to decay in 10 hours. Because these crystals kept Enterprise, alive.
It gives them the power to make orbital adjustments because even with the most precise calculations, you still need to occasionally adjust your orbit to not free fall into the planet.
So then Kirk goes to Spock and asks about any other magnetic disturbances. And Spock's scanners indicate that the current situation is normal. Nothing to explain what happened earlier by any established physical laws that he is aware of. Like, it's just nothing. But he has determined one fact, though, while widespread, the wild effect has the strongest on the planet beneath them. Like, that's where, like, the main point is.
Yes, as if we didn't already figure that out.
So then remember when we talked about the Commodore and how we are bait? We now get a center that is having Kirk tell everybody to go to battle stations and be battle ready. So then he discusses his plan with Spock.
And we get them creating theories and a hypothesis about what could be going on. And at this point, I'm just sitting there going, you guys found a mysterious stranger. You guys found a mysterious ship. You spent 30 seconds with both of them. Maybe at some point you guys want to go check these things out.
Yeah, because they're all about battle, but McCoy is with the person.
Yeah. And it's only like,
All this happens in 10 minutes.
yeah, it's only like 10 minutes into the episode. It feels like a long time.
Yes.
And this guy, the stranger, is fine. So fine, they don't have to go to sickbay to interview him. They go to Kirk's quarters.
But we need to notice that there is a bandage with a gash on his forehead.
Right. Which, again, is not going to really pay off as a plot point, but it is brought up later. In this moment,
He doesn't.
in Kirk's quarters, he does not have the bandage on his head. And he's talking calmly. He's talking without any kind of real urgency or craziness.
He's talking factually.
So this has to be Lazarus B, the antimatter Lazarus, the Lazarus from the other universe.
The one without the gash on his head. There's no wound.
Right, because he gets the gash from falling off the rocks on the planet.
The crazy one.
And he was the crazy one, the one from our universe. But even though his tone of voice is calm, and even though he's presenting himself as rational, and we don't think it's the one from our universe, his speech is talking as if he is the one from our universe. He talks about how this devil thing came into his planet and destroyed his planet, and the guy in Kirk's quarters, has been pursuing this devil thing for a long period of time. So who really knows which one this is? Again, there's only so far that we can stretch logic over this episode to make it make sense. Also, this is the first time that we get the close-up of his beard and mustache, and it is awful. It is horrendous.
Never the same. So I thought also, along with the bandage issue, that perhaps the facial hair changed also, but then I realized no, it's just bad hair application.
Oh, you would think, because I thought the same thing too as I was watching it, thinking maybe this is some indication of which one is which, but no, there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just, in some scenes it's really bad, it's different, it changes. You can really tell in one moment based on his mustache. In some scenes it's really thick, and in other scenes it is just incredibly thin, like comically thin.
Like spaghetti. And this also in his office, like in his quarters. Like, I would not feel comfortable bringing someone into my quarters that I just met.
No. Well, there's a lack of overall security throughout the entire episode. Later, we're going to see him wandering around by himself. We're going to see him in the rec room by himself.
And then Lazarus asks Kirk if he will go with him on his holy cause and help him fix the situation. And all that Kirk has to do is to ensure that his bubble ship is safe. But Kirk is like, I'm going to beam down with you and check it out, but we're not doing any of this crazy stuff you're talking about. I'm just going to make sure the ship is what you say. And so, but also Kirk brings Spock and another security officer with him as they go down onto the planet's surface. Spock and the security officer are at the little bubble ship, making sure it's a plain ship. And then Kirk makes the comment that there should be other living creatures on this planet. Like, there's nothing wrong with it.
Well, and I also think in the moment he's referring to the fact that if Lazarus is telling the truth, which, by the way, we keep calling him Lazarus.
We don't even know how he got that name.
We never get the name until he later goes off on his own and Kirk calls out after him, Lazarus. So whatever moment in Kirk's quarters during that initial interview that introduces the character's name ends up cut from the episode. So we have no idea for the longest time what this guy's name is. But again, I think Kirk is referring to the fact that if he is chasing this thing, this monster, and it's on the planet, then the Enterprise should be able to pick up a second life form on the planet.
You're right. Checking the sensors again, Uhura reports that she can't find another living creature. And Lazarus becomes angry when Spock literally just calls him out as a liar. And then Kirk demands for an answer, like, what is happening? And then we have another one of those weird storms going on, but that's on the planet.
Yeah, and a lot of shaking, a lot of flashing lights, the overlay of the stars and the nebula.
And like two people in blue fighting.
Yeah, so then this is the part where they kind of go off to investigate. Again, they let Lazarus wander off by himself.
He goes up a cliff.
Yeah, and this is the first instance where we get this really strange, it has to be a metaphor of, I don't even know what, because the plot makes no sense. It's supposed to be a metaphor for Lazarus B in the antimatter universe coming through to our universe, and he's struggling with or fighting with Lazarus A from our universe. But again, Lazarus B knows if he comes into our universe and fights and comes in contact with Lazarus A from here, we get the big explosion. So why is Lazarus B even trying to come over here? Unless, again, he's just trying to come across to sabotage the guy's ship. But in any case, someone was really proud of their special effects with their camera. It looks like a negative over a negative. I haven't seen this effect since the movie Time Bandits in the 80s, but it makes everything look like a film negative. We see two stuntmen that kind of resemble Lazarus. The film is slowed down a little bit, but they're clearly struggling with one another. One of them clearly throws the other guy down to signify that someone has won, and then we get everything returning back to normal. This is really the first instance, to wrap it all up and put a bow on it, that should explain to the viewers that whenever this cosmic wink happens, one of the Lazarus is traveling to the other universe. Or I should say, one of the Lazarus is traveling from the antimatter universe into our universe, I think would be a better way to describe it. Jaci is laughing her ass off in the background because it makes no sense. I'm desperately trying to explain bad plot and bad science fiction.
I'm really trying to understand.
Is nothing to understand.
So, Lazarus falls again from the cliff.
Number 2.
And he has, his face is all messed up. And while he's laying there, Spock is on his tricorders like, yep, something happened right here on this planet.
Yep.
But Lazarus is like, yes, I was right. See, you saw it attack me. You saw all this was happening. And we must kill it. Kill it before it starts killing us.
Right.
And
so
he just yells, kill.
So again, we now have to believe again that this is the same Lazarus on Earth. So does the other Lazarus never come to us? Is it just always a fight? I have no idea.
Because earlier, the clean-shaven Lazarus was talking.
Not clean-shaven, but clean-spoken.
Yes, that's what I meant.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm trying to think if there's any point in this episode where we ever see evidence that it is. We have to, because the guy ends up flipping back and forth between being injured and not being injured, a cut on his head and not having a cut on his head. And the only way that can be explained is when the Lazaruses switch.
That's why I thought there was like a double identity, but we never really see it happen. We only hear McCoy say, this is so weird. There was a gash. I had cleaned it. And then next time I saw him, he didn't have it. Then I asked him about it. And then it magically reappeared again. And the bandage was back on it.
Yeah. And I think we're skipping around quite a bit because there's just so much filler to the episode. And we're going off on longer tangents to try to fill time. First time, I think, in a while we've had to fill time for the episode. But I think we're kind of there.
Well, I mean, I think it's intriguing, even though I don't really understand it, but it's kind of fun. So we're in the sick bay, and this is where McCoy sees the gash and the no gash on his head that we talked about before. And then he leaves sick bay, and Kirk goes, well, where did he go? And this is again where you mentioned it last episode, that we hear McCoy start to say, I'm just a country doctor.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of I did not like that he added that there. That was kind of punky.
Yeah. And it kind of gives an explanation as to why Lazarus is roaming the ship. at this point. But the explanation still isn't the best. He's roaming the ship because they failed to put any security officers on him to watch
Tie him down, anything.
And it's not uncommon to either have a security officer in sickbay watching over a sick person who intention and could be a threat to the ship exists. It's also not uncommon for them to just stay outside of sickbay and give them some privacy. But if they were to try to leave, kind of like house arrest, they would stop them from leaving sickbay. Again, could have been avoided.
So then we're in the lunchroom, the cafeteria. We see in the background that cool leveled chess,
3D chess.
Yes, thank you. And I thought it was really cool. And then some gals are having coffee, and Lazarus is just watching everyone interact. And
again, no one is questioning why this guy is just hanging out in the rec room.
Yeah, because he's filthy. I don't know, he's filthy.
He clearly does not belong.
No, and yes, you're right. Nobody is going, hey, dude, why are you here? So then Lieutenant Masters kind of takes the coffee from this young serviceman, and then she goes, oh, how's the reamplification of the dilithium crystals going? And then they're like, oh, we should go check on them. And they both leave. So they go to the engineering room, and then Lazarus tries to follow them, but for some reason he grabs a lattice wall, and then we have another of those weird color crashing crazy things.
Crazy camera effects. We see the negative film of the two stuntmen struggling and wrestling with each other before we get the transition back into normal, whatever normal is for this episode.
I mean, at first I thought he was being electrocuted because he is weird and he's touching a weird wall.
Right.
But that was wrong. But McCoy and Kirk, they just happened to be in the right time, and McCoy is like, let me look at the bandage, and he has a gash on his face.
Which contradicts McCoy's claim that the gash had miraculously healed itself. Again, I can't keep track of which Lazarus is supposedly existing in our universe at this moment or not. I can't even say confidently that one of the Lazarus is taking over the other Lazarus and they're swapping places, or if they're just inhabiting each other's minds, because it's never explained.
I mean, side note, I do like that the bandage is sparkly.
Yeah, it definitely is a gold sparkly bandage.
I mean, McCoy has style. So, Uhura calls Kirk to the bridge, and Kirk says, Lazarus, you're with me. So they leave McCoy in the hallway, and McCoy is just dumbfounded. He doesn't understand what's happening with the wounds. So up onto the bridge, Spock has noticed radiation on the planet, yet the scanners are still not picking it up. According to them, that it isn't there. They call for the main screen to be shown, and Spock calls this incident a rip in the universe.
Yeah, he contradicts himself. Spock contradicts himself a little bit in this conversation because he first, I believe, says the radiation is there, but he can't detect it. And then he clarifies that the radiation is there and it's the source of the radiation that doesn't exist, which is why they can't determine it. It's a stupid way to say it.
However, with the dilithium crystals, Spock was able to locate it. So that makes no sense to me either.
Nope. Hey, guess what? Makes no sense to me either.
And then Lazarus perks up because he's like, oh, these crystals, they can destroy the creature with these crystals that is tormenting him. So let's keep finding them.
And again, no reason or explanation as to why the dilithium crystals are going to help anyone in this situation.
But they're the key to trap that evil creature, that spawn of the devil. And he's begging them to please give me some crystals.
So I think the only thing I can remember from the episode is the dilithium crystals are also used to power the bubble ship. And so
that's what I noticed too.
So that's the only reason I can think of is Crazy Lazarus from our universe wants to get the dilithium crystals to power his bubble ship so that he can travel down the corridor to the other universe to attack him, which would destroy the universe. The other Lazarus wants the crystals so that he can travel to our universe to destroy his ship and close the door between the two universes, I guess.
I didn't get that the sane, quote, quote, sane one wanted the crystals.
He fully admits later when Kirk visits the antimatter universe that he was the one who initially stole the crystals.
Oh.
So they're both trying to steal the crystals for their own purposes.
That's really rude.
It's really confusing.
So Lazarus is becoming defiant because Kirk keeps saying, no, these are our crystals. Our ship is our ship. I have 430 people on here that need to stay alive. Your ship is on the planet. You can stay down there. And then Lazarus keeps demanding. And then Kirk is like, I'm done with this. You need to start actually telling me what is happening, because all that you've been saying means nothing. And then Lazarus backs up and states, I'll have my vengeance, and runs into the hallway.
He runs into the turbo lift.
Yes, the turbo lift.
There's no hallway off the bridge. Not in this version of the Enterprise.
So he runs off of the bridge, into the turbo lift, into the hallway, where then again we have another one of those attacks.
Correct.
He comes out of his attack. Nobody noticed it.
And again, no idea if this is the same Lazarus, if the other Lazarus has taken over and swapped places. Couldn't tell you.
And his facial hair keeps changing. And so finally, Lazarus has found the engineering section that he's been looking for, because he heard Lieutenant Masters saying she was working on the dilithium crystals. So he goes into the engineering room, and we can see Lieutenant Masters and her aide doing their job. And then her aide walks around to tell her that she has to do something on the other side. And this is where Lazarus knocks out her aide. I don't think he's dead. I think he's just passed out.
Yeah, is he injecting him? Is he using some kind of...
We do see him attack Lieutenant Masters while she's on the phone with Kirk, and he's trying to inject something into her, but she's able to keep yelling and talking to Kirk.
Yeah, but she still passes out. So I don't know if it's an injectable. I don't know if it's some kind of...
a mix?
Or that it's just some kind of device that acts to knock them out by smell, like chloroform.
Oh.
No idea. Again, not explained.
The point of Kirk's call was that he wanted to create an experimentation chamber to ensure that the crystals were at full power in 10 minutes.
Because they're trying to recharge their batteries.
Right. So they wanted to check on them. And she said, we could totally do that.
Again,
and then Lazarus jumped in there.
And again, no real explanation to how they're going to recharge the dilithium crystals. It's been a big problem every time in the past when the dilithium crystals end up being drained, that they have to find new crystals. So, come on, guys.
And then our good old Uhura reports that Lazarus is missing. So while Lazarus was in the engineering room, he stole 2 crystals. And now, while he's missing, he also has those crystals. So he has hidden them somewhere, because he has been found without the crystals in hand, though.
Right. We get a commercial break, and in this time of the commercial, they apprehend him, and they're in the conference room, and they're questioning Lazarus where the crystals are. He denies everything and tries to say it was the monster who stole the crystals. Again, we have no idea which Lazarus is which.
And then again, we get on this fact rant from Kirk. Fact, you said you needed the crystals. Fact, an hour later, 2 of my crew were attacked. Fact, 2 of my crystals are missing. Yeah, you say nothing has happened. I'm not the one. You need to, fill in the answers. Again, this seems to be a common theme.
Right. And we get a vague explanation from Lazarus when questioned by Spock as to, well, why does your enemy need the crystals if he's the one who stole them? And Lazarus says it's the same reason that I need the crystals, because they get used in the ship and we jump back and forth and all this stuff. But again, Lazarus has just now admitted that he has a use for the crystals too, casting doubt on whether it was this other entity or himself that stole the crystals. Doesn't really matter.
So Kirk agrees that he's going to continue investigate this whole scenario. That means they have to go back down to the planet and look for if the crystals are there, his enemy, like more beaming down. Like, this is frustrating.
Right. In the end, that's what is suggested by Lazarus in the conference room, that the other monster stole the crystals and would have taken them back down to the planet to somehow use and interact with the ship down on the planet.
So we're on the planet again, and our search party is Kirk, Spock, and again, just 4 security officers and Lazarus.
And we go to this planet to have a scene, which is basically just, again, to show off this special effect again. Nothing else really happens. They go searching for the monster and the crystals because they're not at the ship. They all kind of split off into a couple little groups. Again, Lazarus is by himself. We get a very prolonged scene of this transition, the 2 stuntmen fighting overlaid over the galaxy or the nebula, and once again, Lazarus falls off the damn cliff.
But a rock is falling before him, and he says, "Captain, watch out."
I guess that is the only saving grace to this scene. The only thing that is different is, as he's falling, he knocks loose a rock and calls out to the captain, supposedly alerting Kirk that the rock is falling, and it supposedly is enough to have Kirk jump out of the way. I don't think we see any of that. I think the rock was going to fall away from Kirk to begin with. But in any case, Lazarus falls off the cliff. This is the 3rd time. The boy likes to fall off cliffs.
And the person doing hair and makeup this time gave Lazarus a full beard.
Correct.
He's beautifully, furred.
I would call it beautifully. It's still an extremely
he
thin.
Still needs a shower.
It's still an extremely thin goatee.
So Lazarus fell higher from this rock, and they don't know if he's okay. He has blood, from both sides of his mouth, on his eye. It's poor dude. Back to sickbay we go.
And in sickbay, I don't know if it's because it's the sane Lazarus that they're currently talking to, or if it's just a moment of clarity for the insane Lazarus. But Kirk asks some questions. Now Lazarus claims that he's a time traveler, that the planet that they keep going to and from is his home world, and it was destroyed by the monster, the other Lazarus. But he also tries to make a comment that the planet represents a future version of the planet that's been destroyed. So he's a time traveler from Kirk's past, and he's traveled forward in time chasing this monster. Okay. Why wouldn't you travel back in time to before you're... Well, I guess you're chasing him. You can't control where he's going. But a whole lot of nonsense that makes no sense. We jump quickly to the bridge where we get a discussion between Kirk and Spock. We jump back to the briefing room where we get a discussion between Kirk and Spock where they're trying to put all the pieces together. They talk about a parallel universe, or a parallel reality is a better way to describe it.
All of this was like, whoa, I need to talk to Brian.
Well, a parallel universe would basically be when in every second of the moment, hundreds of decisions are made by hundreds of untold number of decisions are made, and for the decision that you make, you go off on the reality and the universe that you experience, but somewhere else a parallel universe goes off for the other decision, and that branches out and that branches out. It's not really, though, a parallel universe, because if they're made of different material where they come in contact with each other, they would explode, because they're talking about a physical, chemical, whatever reaction, and not a time paradox. So it's not really a parallel universe, it's a parallel reality.
Nice.
Again, does not matter. But that's where we get the first mention of that explanation of one is matter, one is antimatter. If it's a parallel reality and they're switching, they do specifically mention that they're switching places back and forth. And if they were ever to meet, it would cause this catastrophic explosion and end reality in both of their universes. And then we get a very prolonged scene where whatever Lazarus is currently on the Enterprise, he wanders away from sickbay, sets a fire in engineering as a distraction, and is able to run into engineering and steal more crystals. So they're both stealing crystals, I guess. And with those stolen crystals, Lazarus runs into the transporter room, knocks out the transporter operator, and beams himself down to the planet.
He learned that really quick.
Yeah, I guess so.
And then apparently the operator is okay because he then beams down Kirk to go down to the planet.
To chase after Lazarus. Again, strange decision. Beam down by yourself instead
I mean,
of...
you're the boss man.
I guess there's supposed to be now this urgency because they've revealed that they've caught up to what's happening and the real danger of the two Lazaruses meeting, which is the only explanation I can come up with, that Kirk would beam down by himself and not wait for a full assembly team, for a full away team to assemble. But Kirk beams down and we get Act 4 because Kirk somehow, while investigating the ship, confronts Lazarus. Lazarus gets upset that Kirk is there to confront him, and Lazarus sends Kirk through the corridor to the other reality to meet the other Lazarus.
And I was like, how is he getting home?
Good question. I don't think Kirk knew right in that moment, but we get the weird reverse negative. Kirk travels to the corridor. He meets the opposite Lazarus.
The other Lazarus has all the crystals in his ship, and he's very happy that he can start doing whatever he needs to do.
Which I guess is going to be up to me to explain his plan. Yeah. Jackie's looking at me like, come on.
I know he put the stuff in the bin and said, it's done, I'm ready. So, okay, bye.
To wrap it all up, Lazarus B of the antimatter universe explains to Kirk...
He's very nice.
...that it was his people that discovered this ability to open this corridor to travel to this other reality. It caused the other Lazarus, again, I guess, to go insane. So the other Lazarus is now trying to hunt down and destroy Lazarus B. Lazarus B says he can't do that. We're opposites. I'm antimatter, he's matter. I don't think they say that, but that's the parallel. That's the metaphor. And so if we ever were to exist in the same universe together, both realities, yours and mine, would be destroyed. So the plan is get him to chase me into my universe, but I will meet him in this corridor in between realities. You destroy the ship on your end, which will destroy the ship on my end for no explanation. And that will trap the two of us in this corridor where we cannot then go to one of the realities together to destroy everything. Fine. Kirk agrees. Kirk pops back to our reality, grabs Lazarus, shoves him through the door of the ship, sends him into the corridor. He ends up meeting his alternate ego in the corridor. The Enterprise uses the phasers from the Enterprise to blow up the ship and traps them both in this corridor.
Of course, Kirk was back on the Enterprise when they shut it all up.
Yeah, I don't think he wants
safe.
I don't think he wants to be next to the ship when they blow it up.
So Kirk is now like, oh, everything is fine, and we're just gonna go to warp 1. But Spock is like not feeling it, and Kirk reassures him that all is okay. Yet Spock comments that there is no escape for them. They're gonna be like that forever. And then Kirk laments, like, how would it be to have a raging madman at your throat for all of eternity, but then reassure that your universe is safe? And then this weird, but what of Lazarus? But what of Lazarus? It's like we're trying to do poetry again.
Yeah, they try to make this over-dramatic ending with Kirk lamenting over the fate of Lazarus. Doesn't even mention which Lazarus he's lamenting over.
Maybe both, because he said it twice.
Maybe both. Instead of, he's not repeating it for emphasis, he's repeating it once for each character. Maybe. But that's where the episode ends.
So weird.
Roll credits. So, Jackie, I think we've said it enough times, but just to put a final bookend on it, what are your final thoughts? What did you think about Season 1, Episode 27, The Alternative Factor?
I wish I could say I liked it, but as a newbie, I have no idea what they're talking about, and I only see little bits of things that I recognize from the past 25, 26 episodes. But I love that we meet Lieutenant Masters, and I hope that she comes around again because she seemed to be smart and intelligent, and, she even looked out for her assistant.
Yeah, and it's not in my fun facts, but I'll burn it anyway, or I'll talk about it anyway. This in the original script to this episode, there was supposed to be a love interest between Charlene Masters. Charlene's her first
Oh,
name.
well, that's nice to know.
Supposed to be a love interest between her and Lazarus.
Oh,
and
no.
So there was supposed to be a kind of struggle back and forth as he continued to go crazy. Maybe that scene in engineering would have gone quite differently, where he would have not knocked her out right away, but had to
Kiss her.
let her choose. Do you support me, or do you stop me and save the Enterprise, or your duty? It ultimately was written out and scrapped. It never got filmed. It never got past the first draft. It was decided that that was too close to the relationship that we see in Space Seed with Khan.
Well, plus it has way too much going on already, and then add a romantic twist on it with a crazy person.
Right. So ultimately, I think I've made my thoughts very clear on this episode.
Oh, yes.
It's not good. This is not a good episode.
But I appreciated you helping me say it all out because I would have done a horrible job.
This is not going to be one of my favorite episodes. There is far too many problems with this. I think ultimately you could have thrown away 90% of this and done a rewrite to try to get it better. But yeah, I'm not a fan of this episode. This is probably, if you want to break it up into the golden era of Star Trek, so the original series, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and I'll throw Voyager in there as well, this is definitely top 10 worst episodes.
Well, do they speak about all these different... Are they expecting their viewers to know about dimensions and galaxies and parallel, all that they're saying? Are they expecting their viewers to know about that so it makes it easier?
No, I would definitely think that they are expecting us to suspend belief in what we know is fact and true to enjoy the episode,
Okay.
much like any other television series that kind of relies on some of this fantastic science besides Star Trek. Look at the Twilight Zone or the Outer Limits. None of those make sense factually, but you have to suspend belief of that as a viewer to be entertained by it. But I don't think that's what this episode suffers from. I think even if you suspend belief in all of that, ultimately this is still just a poor episode.
Got it. Just wondering.
So we'll wrap up our thoughts on the positive by giving our favorite quote to the episode and why. Jaci, what's your favorite quote?
So mine was Kirk to McCoy when they were discussing Lazarus being injured. And Kirk says, sometimes pain can drive a man harder than pleasure. And I chose this one because, as someone that is always chronically in pain, it is much easier to focus on a goal that will then, promise you some, like a reward, rather than just being like, oh, I'm having a nice moment right now, but now I have to get up and go get that item. I know it's not like specific, but yeah, that driving force rather than just sitting in happiness.
All right. My favorite quote is in the conference room when Kirk and Spock put it all together and come to the agreement or come to the realization that these parallel realities are existing and what is happening. Spock gives the quote, Jim, madness has no purpose or reason, but it may have a goal.
Oh, that's a good one.
It resonates a little bit with me because it's probably what makes the most sense in the episode. The driving force of our version of Lazarus being so insane and throwing logic out the window, but he definitely has a goal and he's going to move toward that as quick as possible. I also like it because it's one of the rare instances, or I won't say rare, but it's an instance where Spock calls Kirk by his first name instead of Captain.
Well, that's true.
And they're in private, and I think that's part of it, but I think he does it to drive home that force of don't dismiss Lazarus just because he's mad or a little bit crazy. He has a goal, and we need to take it seriously.
Oh, they were talking about mental health care way back when.
There we go. So that's going to be my favorite quote for the episode.
That was a good one.
But we'll jump into our Tribble Tidbits, which is what we call our fun facts about the episode, even though they're not always fun facts. And why do we call them Tribble Tidbits, Jackie?
Because tribbles are the best.
Because tribbles are a blessing and a curse. They're cute and they're a menace. First airing March 30th, 1967. John Drew Barrymore, who is the father of actress Drew Barrymore, he was originally cast to play Lazarus. And depending on the source that you read, I found the story two different ways. He either said to the production team the afternoon before filming was to begin that he wasn't going to show up and play the part, or again, a different source said he just never showed up at all.
Whoa.
Causing some major disruptions to the episode. Again, I don't think you can lay that all of the problems of the episode on that fact.
No.
The script is terrible, but certainly
having your main character not show up
doesn't matter if it's you have 12 hours, 24 hours notice or not. That's definitely going to cause you to scramble and figure out how to what order of the scenes you're going to shoot, because now you have to change everything while you recast him. And they were able to recast him. The guy that they recasted, basically they flew him out and gave, he thought he was flying out for an audition. He walked in and they said, "You got the part, kid." Maybe the reason behind his really bad costume facial hair was due to the last minute casting. I didn't find that source for that one way or the other to explain it. But again, he himself later interviewed for conventions and so forth. He himself described the filming of this episode to be incredibly tense and incredibly chaotic as they scrambled to work around this.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, they have to change the costume. Maybe the character has to change. So many things.
Yeah. And I was never able to figure out why John Barrymore ultimately didn't show up or canceled the act or canceled the contract.
When Drew Barrymore has her Ask Me Anything boxes on Instagram, I'll add that in there.
There we go.
Why did your daddy not show up?
But because he ultimately screwed everything over, the production team with Star Trek filed a grievance with the Screen Actors Guild.
Good.
And it caused John Barrymore's membership with the guild to be suspended for 6 months. So he couldn't find at least guild sanctioned work for that 6 months. So
that sucks for him.
And 1967, definitely not an easy time to find acting work if you're not a SAG member. The star and nebula image that is superimposed over all those transition scenes is a real telescope image of the Trifid Nebula, which is 4,100 light years from Earth. Just a fun little fact.
No, when they did that creation, I know that we're watching remastered. How did it look in 1967?
I liked the 1967 version a lot better. I'm pulling it up for Jaci right now on Memory Alpha. So we're just looking at thumbnails, but this is the original version, and this is the remaster version.
Yeah, the original is beautiful.
The original version relies more heavily on that image of the Trifid Nebula. So you get these two stunt doubles, again, the negative of the film, fighting and struggling amongst themselves. It's more washed out, the two actors. But if you look at the remastered version, what you then get is no nebula, no stars.
It's like a glow.
And it's more glowy. It's certainly more in your face, but it's more obvious that they're just fighting on a blank soundstage with some fog on the ground.
Oh, yeah, they really ruined the...
Yeah, so definitely a moment where the remastered version kind of takes away from what I think was a better option for the viewer. But my last triple tidbit is this is going to be the first time that we see a live two-way communication between Enterprise and Starfleet communications.
Oh.
If you think back, yes, we see people on the view screen, but that's when the Enterprise is communicating with other ships or planets in the nearby vicinity. Starfleet is all the way back on Earth.
Yeah.
Or at least they're communicating with a starbase that's far away. And so in episodes past, they're relying on delayed radio transmissions. And in this case, they're having a live conversation. It's the first time we see it.
That's super cool.
But those are our Tribble tidbits. And this, of course, is where we share our episode ranking. And we assign a Starfleet rank to the episode. This not only says how entertained we were by the episode, but how important we feel the episode is as a member of our fictitious starship for the season. Our bottom or enlisted members are going to be Ensign, Lieutenant Junior Grade, and Lieutenant. We can have an unlimited number of episodes for that. And at the top of our ranking, our officers, our Lieutenant Commander, which we can have 7, our Commanders, which we can have 5, Captain, we can have 1, and Admiral, we can have 1. Jaci, for your starship, the USS Galactic Glitter Bee, what rank do you give this episode?
We are going to give this guy a nice supporting role of ensign. You know, get that to the bottom, make a nice space.
And I think we've covered it quite a bit, but why would you give it that rank?
Because I didn't understand anything.
Yeah. I'm going to be in the same rank with the USS Cosmic Shark. This episode is going to get a rank of Ensign as well. Again, this is definitely an episode that could fall off the face of the earth, and we would not miss it. It does not contribute anything to Star Trek lore overall. This is definitely a throwaway episode for me.
But if there is that one person or a handful that like it, please tell us why. I would love to know.
Yes.
Like generally, because what did I miss?
And as of this recording on IMDb, this episode ranks a 5.7 out of 10.
See, some liked it.
Well, I think there's just people that are giving it
Pity points?
Pity points or not 1 out of 10. So, as a reminder, we will post an updated graphic showing off our rankings to our Patreon at patreon.com/TreksandTangents the day after this episode goes live. We'll be back next week to trek through another episode, and this is where we give a turbolift tease or elevator pitch to next episode's plot. I give Jaci the title of the next episode, and Jaci, with no other information, will give a brief pitch to the plot. Jaci, next week's episode is entitled The City on the Edge of Forever.
While delivering supplies to another city, we find a new world that is kind of stuck in time, but it is just glorious, beautiful, beauty everywhere. And do we want to stay here, or do we want to go back onto Enterprise and finish our mission?
And tune in next week to see how close Jaci's prediction is. If you want more show information, you can find and directly support our podcast on Patreon at patreon.com/TreksandTangents. We'll post our Star Note episode, our bonus episode, to the Patreon at the same time this episode goes live. We're not going to have a specific question for our Star Note this week because there's just not a lot to pull from this episode.
I think we've kind of talked about it.
We've talked about it a lot. I think we'll just kind of go on a wide tangent and talk about the episode more, go a little bit deeper into the plot holes, plot theories, and just kind of try to break it down and try to make sense. It's probably just going to be an episode where we talk ourselves in circles. So, but still, I think it'll be entertaining. You can also follow us on x.com at Treks_Tangents. We're also on Instagram and Blue Sky at Treks and Tangents. But Jaci, where can people find you and what are you up to?
Oh my, lots has been happening for me. You can find me on Instagram at Jaboom, JIBBOOM where I am focusing on my music, mid-sized fashion, makeup, hair, and even my showcasing those service dogs that I have, Cooper and Cadence. And I mean, don't forget to check it out. And I also have a shop at Whatnot with Glitter Bow Boutique. See you there.
And you can watch me stream a variety of video games over at twitch.tv/PiratePoundTown. On YouTube, I post video games and other random content on my main channel, Pirate Pound Town, and also on YouTube, coin collecting and hobby content at Pirate Treasure Hunting. I post socially on Blue Sky at Pirate Pound Town, and I can also be found on Instagram under Pineapple Cannibal. Links to all social media mentioned can be found in the episode description. Thank you everyone for tuning in to this week's episode. We hope you had fun like we did, and we will see you all next week.
Make sure you're in the right dimension.
End transmission.